Good afternoon and welcome to today's live session hosted by Goldcrest Portugal Buyers Agency. Whether you are joining us from Portugal or from abroad, good evening perhaps, or good morning, we are thrilled to have you here. My name is Gisani Campos, and today we are diving into a topic that is top of mind for many families planning to relocate to Portugal: how to choose the best international school for your children. Today, we are joined by an incredible panel of experts who will provide comprehensive insights into the Portuguese education system and offer advice on what to consider when selecting the perfect school and how to look for property in the surrounding area. So, from Goldcrest, we have our property consultants Gonçalo Peixoto and Henrique Arque. Hello. And we are also thrilled to have a very special guest with us today, Natalie Willis-Davies from Tendoria. Tendoria is a leading specialist in educational consultancy. Natalie has a wealth of experience helping families select schools that align with their children's academic and personal needs, not just in Portugal, but globally. Together here, we are aiming to cover three key areas. One, the various curriculums available in Portugal's international schools. Then, how these educational pathways can connect your child to universities globally. And finally, we will also explore how Goldcrest can support your relocation journey, integrating aspects of living in Portugal, navigating the real estate market, and ensuring your family thrives in this beautiful country. So, shall we start with Natalie? Hi, Natalie, how are you?
Hello, Gisani. Lovely to see you. I'm well, thank you. And you?
Very good, thank you. Struggling with a bit of a cold. I'm sure you can all hear. There you go. But anyway, us. So
I'm sorry to hear that. Not due to the beautiful sunshine we've been having.
water, yeah. Whew, now I'm fine again. So, Natalie, tell us.
Should I just start then? Thank you for the, sorry, yes, thank you for the lovely introduction, Gisani. It's always a pleasure to be with you and your colleagues. As you mentioned, I'm an education consultant, specialized in helping families find the right school for their children in Portugal and also Spain, by the way. I work with families from countries all over the world who are moving to Portugal, but I also work with families who are already based in Portugal and who are looking to change schools or who need university advice.
I'm back again.
Sorry.
A bit of a fit now, coughing fit, but good. So thanks for introducing Tendoria. But now let's try to understand more about the international curriculums that are available in Portugal in international schools.
Yeah. So in Portugal, there are a variety of schooling options. So besides the international schools, we have one big category are the public and private Portuguese schools. So these schools are fully taught in Portuguese, except of course for the foreign language subjects that they offer, such as English, French, or German. The other large category of schools are international schools. So within those sit the English language schools, as well as schools taught in other languages. So there's a French lycée, there's a Dutch school, a Spanish school, etc. And now straddling these two main categories are the bilingual schools, which follow the Portuguese curriculum, but they also offer some subjects in English so that students are exposed to both Portuguese and English on a daily basis. But one thing to keep in mind is that bilingual programs typically only go up to 6th grade. So it's really for the younger children. Now, to go into the English language international schools, which is the larger group of schools that we're talking about today, within those, there are a variety of curriculums. So I just want to mention here, by the way, that whereas the school's curriculum is, of course, an important consideration. A family's main goal should be to find a wonderful school for their child. It's one that offers opportunities for growth both inside and outside the classroom. So going back to curriculums, Portugal offers 3 English language curriculums. So you have Cambridge, American, and IB. Just a note about Cambridge, and I mentioned Cambridge because it's the most popular British curriculum. So the Cambridge, it aligns with the British national curriculum, but it offers students a more international perspective. So to give you an overview, the Cambridge and American curriculums are broadly similar in that they are inquiry-based. They both encourage the development of critical thinking and problem solving. The differences between the programs are more noticeable in secondary school. So the Cambridge curriculum requires students to become more specialized earlier on. During the last 2 years of school, so 11th and 12th grade, students typically choose 3 or 4 subjects to study in depth for A-levels based on their intended career path or university degree. In the American system, students take a broader range of subjects throughout their high school years. Assessments are also a big point of difference. So whereas in the American system, students are assessed through a combination of coursework, exams, quizzes, projects, etc. In the British system, students are assessed mainly through exams, especially for IGCSEs, which are taken in grade 10, and A-levels, which are taken in grade 12. And these exams are externally graded, meaning not graded by teachers at the school. Although coursework does play a role in some of the subjects. Now we have the IB. So the IB is structured differently. The IB philosophy is to create students who are capable of thinking critically, who can manage their own learning, and interact with the world in a more meaningful way. So for this reason, the focus there is on the development of what they call approaches to learning skills, or ATL skills. These skills are thinking, communication, social skills, self-management, and research skills. And in the IB program, assessment is continuous, meaning that it's not based on one big exam at the end of the year, except for the diploma program, of course, where you do have exams at the end of the 2-year program, but coursework also contributes to the student's final result. That's it for my summary of the English language curriculums.
That was a very thorough summary. Thank you. So now that we know the types of curriculum, the English-speaking curriculum available, can you give us an overview of the different educational pathways family can choose from? What sort of education they would like for their children. It could be a progressive school or something a bit more, how do you say, conservative, or how do you explain that to your clients?
Right. So in terms of the number of international schools, there are just under 50 international schools in Portugal, so there's a lot to choose from. The vast majority of these schools offer the Cambridge curriculum, which is in keeping with the popularity of Cambridge globally. The IB diploma program is offered during the last 2 years of high school. It's also very popular. Just under 15 schools offer the diploma program, three schools offer the full set of IB programs from primary school through the diploma. So when families speak about IB, usually they refer to the IB diploma program, but the IB also offers programs for children as young as 3 years old. And there are only actually 3 schools in Portugal that offer an American curriculum. And of these, only one offers an American high school diploma. And all 3 of these schools offer the IB diploma program in grades 11 and 12. So that would be the diploma that students graduate with. Families, as you mentioned, Gisana, families can also opt for less traditional schooling. So there are alternative curriculums available in Portugal, such as Montessori, Waldorf, Reggio Emilia forest schools, and some schools that mix these more, let's say, progressive pedagogies. So these schools typically only go up to 6th grade. and they offer mixed age settings. That means that a classroom will have students aged, one classroom will be between the ages of 3 and 6, for example, another between the ages of 6 and 9. So it's not like in traditional school where you have, first grade, second grade, and most of the children are the same age. And in terms of the alternative schooling, one can find schools taught in English, although most of the schools, these types of schools are taught in Portuguese. So that's a little overview of what's available.
Great, Natalie, thank you. Now talking about Portuguese, tell me, what's the main difference between the Portuguese schools and the international schools?
Thank you for this question, Suzanne, because I know that many parents wonder what would be best for their child or their children. So one of the biggest benefits, of course, of enrolling your child in a local Portuguese school is that they'll become fluent in the language. Also, at a local school, your child will be fully immersed in the culture of the country. So they then have the opportunity to develop a deep understanding of cultural norms and to develop friendships within the community. So thereby they're deepening their ties to it. I'd like everyone to keep in mind that the younger the child, the better. So Portuguese is not an easy language. The grammar is quite complex. So expecting a 14-year-old with no background in Portuguese to become fluent in a short period of time isn't really a reasonable expectation unless that child is amazing at languages. I always encourage families to begin learning Portuguese before they move here to get a head start. And the other big benefit of enrolling your child in a private Portuguese school is, of course, the cost. Local schools are a fraction of the cost of international schools. That said, of course, there are always pros and cons. There are certain advantages that international schools offer. So the IB, American, and Cambridge curriculums encourage inquiry-based learning and critical thinking. Students are encouraged to think globally and explore a range of perspectives. In contrast, a Portuguese education is more teacher-centered with traditional teaching methods. So the curriculum is more theoretical with a strong focus on memorization and mastering the national content. Also, international schools typically offer a wider range of extracurricular activities than local schools do. This allows children to explore their interests and develop their skills beyond the classroom. So as I explained to my clients, an international school is really a softer landing for families relocating to Portugal, especially for children aged 12 plus who will need more time to learn Portuguese than their younger counterparts. And international schools offer an international setting, meaning that the students come from different backgrounds, and that makes it sometimes makes it easier to integrate and make friends.
Thanks, Natalie. Yes, it must be easier, definitely, to make friends if you choose for Portuguese school or integrate. You can make friends in international schools as well, but integrated for local culture. So I guess you need to see what is important for you and your child. Now, thinking about my child's future education needs, let's think if I'm a family in a family coming to Portugal and I think relocating again, how can I ensure that the curriculum at an international school will align with my child's needs in another country?
That's a great question, and definitely an important consideration especially for secondary age students. So secondary usually is from age 11, 12 and up. Especially those students in their last 4 years of schooling. So it's referred to as high school in the United States. So in general, though, one can't go wrong with a Cambridge, American, or an IB school. So these types of schools are popular internationally. So families are likely to find them in their new destination countries. So that ensures a seamless transition. In fact, the Cambridge International Curriculum is offered in over 10,000 schools in more than 160 countries. Making it one of the most widely adopted curricula globally. The IB is also popular with over 5,000 schools offering it across 160 countries. And American schools are also a popular option at big international destinations. My big tip, though, is not to switch schools right after 9th grade So starting beginning of 10th grade, nor right after 10th grade, so beginning of 12th grade. This isn't such an issue if a student is attending an American school, but Cambridge schools offer the IGCSE program in grades 9 and 10, and the A-levels and IB diploma program in grades 11 and 12. And these three are all 2-year programs. That means that students must complete both years of each program. So you can't just parachute in the second year of the program and be able to complete it. So in cases like this, a child may either have to repeat the year or hold off the move, or if they're in the American system, find an American school that will suit.
Okay, that's a very good tip. So let me see if I got it right. So you need to wait until the 9th grade. I mean, you need, it's a tip that you're sharing.
Yeah, recommended.
9th, yeah. 9th or the 10th grade, or is it the 9th grade?
Yeah, so 9 and 10 is one program. So you need to start in 9th grade. So you cannot start in 10th grade if you haven't been in that program
right.
yet. Okay, so if you're moving from an American system to the Cambridge system, you can't start the Cambridge system in 10th grade. It has to be 9th grade. And similarly, the last 2 years, you can't start in 12th grade. You have to do 11th grade if it's the Cambridge or IB system.
Okay, see, very good tip. Right, so let's talk about the bigger picture here. How do these school systems connect to global universities, Natalie?
That's indeed a very important consideration that many families think about. So Cambridge qualifications like the IGCSE and A-levels are highly regarded by universities globally, including those in the US, the UK, and other major countries. So many families actually believe that only the IB diploma is recognized internationally and not A-levels. And that's not the case. US universities, and this is always a question related to US universities are very aware of A-levels and they value that qualification. The IB is obviously very widely recognized by universities around the world, including top universities or all universities in the US, UK, Europe, and elsewhere. The diploma program in particular is known for its rigorous academic standards and holistic approach, which appeals to these university admissions officers. In terms of the Portuguese diploma, so if your children are attending local Portuguese schools or a public Portuguese school, so most universities around the world will recognize a Portuguese secondary school or high school diploma, as long as it meets their educational equivalency requirements. This means that the exact process of applying to universities abroad will vary depending on where you want to study. So just to give a little summary, a little taste, in European countries, because Portugal is part of the European Union, many universities in the EU countries accept the Portuguese high school diploma as equivalent to their own secondary education qualifications. So there's no issue there. For non-EU countries, so countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, they will also generally accept the Portuguese high school diploma, but they may ask for additional documentation to verify the equivalency. The other important point to keep in mind is that international schools have university counseling programs within the schools, whereas Portuguese schools offer limited guidance relative to international universities. So it will be up to the student to do the research on their own or to hire their own university consultant. And this is where I have to plug in Tendoria and say that we have very experienced university counselors who can help students with applications to universities worldwide. And that's it from me, Gisane.
Thanks, Natalie. That was very good. I also would like to add that our sister company, Global Citizen Solutions, is putting together a report on countries, the best countries offering international higher education for families interested in investment migration. So that should be coming in the next month or so. And yeah, stay tuned. Check the website. You'll be able to find it there. Now, let's talk about properties and the process of relocation. I'd like to speak to Enrique Gonzalo now, and there will be basically, the classic chicken or egg question. What comes first when your client comes to you saying that they would like to have a property and also get their children in a very nice school? What comes first, the school or the property? Oh, Gonzalo, you mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Jizan. That's a great question. Very common to have that situation with our clients. I think it depends. There's a range of factors that we need to consider. Um, we can walk into some of those details, but I would. Both of them have their draws and their drawbacks and their merits. But there's a ways of going around it and finding the perfect solution for everyone. Enrique can tell us about a little bit about it, and I'll go after.
Who's that? Is it Enrique now?
Enrique, you're on mute.
Oh, there we go. So, Gisani, it really depends on the family, of course, because there are many factors influencing the decision. For example, the child age and grade. For younger children, the proximity to the school may be a higher priority. Older children might be able to handle a longer commute. So it really depends, or maybe you can look at the school availability and the admission criteria, as some schools have limited spots or specific enrollment requirements. Ensuring a place before settling on a property can avoid disappointment on this side. So you need to look at different factors, and it really depends on the actual family itself. So there's not a perfect chicken or the egg solution in my point of view.
Yeah. There's also other details that we might have to look into. Family priorities are one of them. So certain families might prioritize living in a more calm area, not living in the center of the city. And although the college or the school that they choose, it's in the middle of the city, they might choose to drive the kids there, or having a driver to take the kids to school. So that's an important one. Also, budget takes a big part of this decision. Some of these schools are located in high pressure areas, so properties in those locations will be a higher budget to secure, and that will take a big effect on the decision, of course. Other thing might be flexibility of the families. So if they have the choice to do that or not, sometimes they have small kids, they have a big the work times, it's difficult to conciliate everything. So yeah, that's a very big point of that.
Okay, thanks, Gonzalo and Enrique. So let's talk about location. So Goldcrest contributed with the Global Citizen Solutions in the creation of their international school guide, and we will share some maps in a bit. But those the guide presents over 50 schools, international schools in Portugal, and it clearly shows a concentration of international schools in Lisbon, including Cascais and Sintra area, and also the Algarve. Is this what you see from your clients' needs, Gonzalo? Are the families choosing these areas? And what do you recommend to families searching for relocation to Portugal?
Absolutely, that's certainly a factor that will drive families to choose the location or the schools. A very good example that we have on that is if you're used to living in Paris, let's say, doing 20 kilometers to take your kids to school might take you an hour and a half to 2 hours in some of the places in Paris. Here in Portugal, that's very rare to happen. We have traffic, we have rush hour, but it's not so bad. So people tend to choose to buy a house near those schools that they choose for their children, but also they don't mind to drive a bit, or so that's something that we see. We've been seeing a lot of new schools opening in other places. So now the Algarve has a big part of it as well. Sintra as well. So it's not everything in the center of Lisbon, which brings as well a lot of choice to the parents when they're looking to decide on the school.
Okay, so you mentioned Sintra, Gonçalo. Okay, I'm not mute. Can you tell us about the property offering in neighborhoods in Lisbon around schools, the international schools?
Yeah,
talk about the location. Sorry.
Of course. So in Lisbon, I would say around the main schools, that we have in Lisbon, I would say the areas would be Campo do Rique, Lapa, probably Estrela as well. In these locations, you're looking probably at an apartment. It's a bit more difficult to find a house and a detached house. So you're looking more towards an apartment. Usually the apartments in these areas are about 100 square meters, and you're looking at roughly 5,000 per square meter, 5,000 euros per square meter in this area. Another great area to look at would be, for example, Parque das Nações, or even São Bento. In these areas, the price in Lisbon is actually quite similar depending on what you're looking. Again, in these areas, you're looking more towards apartments than houses. Other areas that you might choose could be Monsanto, for example, or Alvalade, where you can find probably a bigger house than an apartment. You'll have a bit more space, as well as Sintra. You have a lot of choice in Sintra, and you're actually quite close to Lisbon anyway, so Sintra might be something to look at, and you're looking at a much cheaper price of, I would say, 2,000 to 3,000 euros per square meter.
Okay, well, my next question was going to be about Cascais and Sintra, but I can see that you cover that, unless you have something else to say.
I can add a bit about Cascais, so I didn't mention Cascais. Cascais, it's very varied as well, what you can find. You have everything from small apartments.
Sorry to interrupt you, Gonçalo. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Huge apologies. I just realized that our viewer might not be that familiar with the greater Lisbon area. So if you could say, how far Cascais and Sintra is from Lisbon, that would be great.
Sure. So Sintra would be 35 minutes away from Lisbon. With the rush hour traffic, you'd be looking at probably 45 minutes to 50 minutes to get to Lisbon, to the center of Lisbon. In Cascais, it's usually a bit quicker. You're about 35 kilometers away from the center of Lisbon. It would take you 35 to 45 minutes to get to the center of Lisbon from Cascais. In Cascais, if you're looking for a place close to the sea as well, you can take your children to the beach after a school day, or on weekends. It's a very good place to do that kind of a lifestyle as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. So now, shall we speak to our Algarve specialist? And for the ones watching us, if you haven't heard of the Algarve region yet, it's located in the south of Portugal. It's really not that far. Some areas within the Algarve you can reach within 3 hours, 3.5 hours. But it's beautiful, very hot. So, Enrique, I'll leave up to you. Can you share the same information about property offering in Lolé, where it seems to have a higher concentration of international schools, and Sagres as well?
Yes, of course, Gisani. So starting with Lolé, Lolé probably is the one that has the highest concentration of international schools, and Lolé is a huge state, and you have a lot of offer from a blend of traditional Portuguese charm and modern amenities. Is where you have all the golf courses, most of the golf courses in the Algarve, and you have their beautiful properties, beautiful villas near the beach. It's one of there's where you have the Golden Triangle, which is where you have the luxury properties and villas, which is a beautiful area to be in with all the amenities. You will be looking, depending on where you're looking on Lolé, and if it's an apartment or villa, around 6,000, 5,000 square meter. Of course, it can go much higher or much lower depending how near to the sea you are. If you have a villa with a sea view, front line, walking distance to the beach, of course, those prices could escalate quite a lot. And if you are a bit back to the mountains, for example, to the Lolé city, it will be much less. You could find 3,000 square meter around that. I see here in the map also all other areas. You want me to comment on those areas too, apart from Lolé, Gisani?
We still have time, yes. If you have any important information to share, perhaps about Lagos.
Of course, yes. So Lagos is one of my favorite cities, actually, because I like it because it has a nice mix of expats and Portuguese citizens. So it's a good city to kind of get the feel for Portugal. Lagos, the properties are a bit cheaper than in the Lolé area. You there probably could go around 4,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 the square meter. Of course, always looking the proximity to the beach, more towards the beach, higher the price. It's also the postal card of the Algarve, is where you have all the cliffs and all the rocks coming out of the sea. It's a beautiful area. And next to it is Algesur too. It's the western tip of the Algarve, and is known for the dramatic cliffs and stunning beaches. And it has a like a laid back surf culture over there. And there you can find very nice villas too, around 600,000 euros, near to the beach. So for the people that like the nature and want a big villa, that could be the place to be. So yeah, those two, Algesur and Lagos, I do really recommend them too.
Great. Yes, I've been to those places. They're fantastic. I can also add that not only the kids and the parents will be happy, but also the grandparents, because Algarve has a really high concentration of retirees as well.
Yes.
So there you go. You've got the whole family there. Just to finalize, Enrique, what would be your advice to any family relocating to the Algarve?
So there are several. I will say, first of all, embrace the local culture. I think that's a must. The Algarve have a beautiful, rich cultural heritage, from the cuisine to the festivals. So that will be one. Other one will be to connect with other families over there, try to get opinions of other families already living there, learn the language. Although I know people in the Algarve that have been living for 15 years and they don't know a word of Portuguese and they do just fine. So, and you could do perfectly without knowing Portuguese in the Algarve because everyone knows how to speak in English. But it really makes a difference getting to know the language, of course. And another one will be just to be patient, as relocating to a new country always take time and adjustment. So it's another culture. So it's always good to keep in mind that that there are things that are going to be different to your country. So patience is a good one too.
Certainly. Okay, well, Enrique, Gonzalo, and Natalie, thank you very much. We've covered a lot of ground here, but I think now it's time to open our Q&A and go through some of the great questions we received in our comments here. So the first one is for Natalie from Shirley Lorna. Can you tell us what is the top IB school in Lisbon and the top Cambridge school in terms of the last year's scores? Do you know if you're able to answer that, Natalie? You're mute.
Oh, sorry. So now how to... Am I on mute still?
No, it's fine.
No. Sorry. It's always tricky to boil down results. All of the schools will have, or most of them have, their results on their websites. And the other thing to keep in mind is that many schools in Portugal and the Lisbon regions in the past 5 years. So that means that they have not expanded into secondary school yet, and the school has not had, they haven't had, this 12th grade class, so they haven't done the IB or the A-level exams, and so you don't have those results yet. So the answer would be skewed, especially if you have younger children. The answer in 5 years may be different than the answer today of the school that has the highest scores. So I recommend that you look at the websites of the various schools.
Thanks, Natalie. Sorry, I'm just going to jump on the next one. It's for Gonzalo. Has the growth of international schools in Portugal impacted real estate prices in the surrounding areas?
Well, that's a very good question. It depends on the areas, I would say. There are certainly some areas that were impacted by this um, increase in the search of those areas. I would say Dolora in Sintra is one of those places. You see a lot of people that have their children in international schools around there. They always try to be close to the school, and there's a lot of people that live there and they have their children in those schools. There's some smaller areas in Lisbon where that was felt because of the increase in search, for sure.
Thank you. Now another one for Natalie. A good one. Natalie, do any universities in Portugal offer free tuition?
Not that I'm aware of for international students, so non-Portuguese students. The public universities here, they actually do charge a fee for Portuguese students, but it's quite low. I think it's 500-600 euros a year. But for international students, it's about 2,000-3,000 euros a year.
Okay, great. Perfect. So, Chan, here's your answer. Now moving on, Enrique. Are there any emerging trends in real estate developments near international schools in Portugal? You on mute.
There we go. Emerging trends. As far as I know, I don't think so. As they said on the last question, some areas do have an increase in prices on the real estate. And for example, like Gonzalo said, in Belora, you have there are being new developments. You see that also, for example, in Sagres. Around, since it's a small area, a lot of families are moving there, and that's also increasing the prices over there. Not by much, but they have increased on the last years. And also, I've seen the school lists of free spots to be. Now it's harder to get your kids onto schools, depending on which area you are. So yeah, I think that's about it. The trends increasing in price, and being careful with when you're going to put your kids in the schools, if they have a long list.
Great, thank you. So now a question for all of you, the last one, because time is short and we have to wrap up. So what advice would you give to families who are moving to Portugal and are looking to balance proximity to schools with affordable housing? Who wants to go first?
I can go first, no problem. So my first advice would be to decide on the school first. If you're looking for being the most affordable possible, I would say that the best way to go around it would be to secure an allocation for your children in the school first. And after that, you'd be looking for locations close to that school. Um, I would say 10 to 15 to 20 kilometers away. It's not a big commute every day. It's easy enough. And if you go for schools, for example, in the area of Sintra and Cascais, there's not a lot of traffic in the rush hour, so it will be very easy to do that. Or even in some places where the transportation infrastructure is good, your kids can come and go to school very easily by public transportation. It's very, very cheap, and will spare you the trouble of going and picking up and leaving kids in school.
What I can add to that, Gonzalo, is that obviously the Lisbon Cascais region is the priciest, not only in terms of real estate, but also in terms of school fees. So families look at different regions of Portugal, such as Porto and the Algarve, they'll find school fees that are lower, and also, I think, more options in terms of affordable housing.
Agree with that.
It's a very good point, Natalie. Thank you. Enrique, do you have anything to add?
I will add, always look for a good, reputable real estate agent. That always can help you, because we know, we have the local knowledge, and where are the good areas near the schools, where is the easier commute, price wise. So I would say, getting a reputable real estate agent is always good.
Of course, that's a very good point. And now I'll add just a bit of advice from me. you have to do a recce trip before, if we're talking about relocation, and if we're talking about schools first. You need to put your names on the waiting list of many schools because the space fill up quite quickly. And that's it. But I'm not the specialist. The specialists are here. I'm just speaking from a personal perspective. Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your expertise with us and answering all these questions. If you'd like to speak to Natalie, you drop us a line here. We're happy to connect you to her and her consultancy services, which are very useful for families looking for schools in Portugal and globally. And yes, and also feel free to contact Gonçalo and Henrique directly if you are interested in find the best property for you in Portugal. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in our next live event. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.